In this video now we will look at the reporting section within Architect Pro. To have access to the reporting section you do need to have a admin user account. So if I click on reports, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through some of these reports that you might want to use within Architect Pro. So initially project hours, and there's a drop down menu here, so if I just click on the drop down I can pick the project that I'm going to run through. So I click on, say, Abbey Court. Now Abbey Court will show me the project fee, the spend to date, and the percentage of the project that has been completed initially. So if I have a look at that, I know what the project fee is. The spend to date is just a bit over a quarter of the way through, and then the percentage of the project that has been completed is just over half. So from an overall very quick look at the project, I'm doing quite well in terms of the Abbey Court project. Now what I can do is I can look at this a level further and look at the stages within each of the stages within this Abbey Court project. And if I look at, say, 0 strategic definition and look at the fee, progress has been fully complete, the notional spend then is just a little over half of that fee. So in terms of strategic definition, I've come in well under budget on that particular stage. But if I look at the next stage, preparation and brief, I had set out a fee of 3,000 and I've managed to go over that by spending 4,238. So what I need to do is I need to, on the next set of jobs that are similar, or on this job, if I catch it early enough, I can say, okay, listen, we need to pull back on preparation and brief, or we need to add in a bigger budget or a bigger fee for that stage. But overall quite happy with the Abbey Court project. It's doing quite well. If I look at the hours by activity and spend by activity, and also hours by user and spend by user, it'll give you a quick snapshot of what is going on within the project in terms of your users and by their time and their activity. So what's taken up the most amount of time and what's taken up the most amount of spend in terms of the activity, and then also your users. So you can essentially use this project area to see how well you're doing within a project on an ongoing basis. Or if at the end of a job you come in and you say, okay, we did quite well on that job, where did we do well? Okay, say if we finish, this project finishes as is now, and I think everybody would assume in particular, okay, we did quite well on that job, very happy, let's go with the same fees for the next job. But if you actually come in and have a look at the report, you'll notice, okay, we actually overspent on preparation and brief, so we need to change that fee, and possibly we put in a fee far too high for strategic definition, so we might need to change that as well. So that's the reasoning behind that report. Now if you want to have a look at project progress by work stage, that basically shows you similar enough to project hours, but in terms of your overall projects rather than just one project at a time. And you can have a look at these projects in terms of the last week, 2 weeks, month, 2 months, or 3 months, or all projects. If you change to all projects, it'll show everything. If I want to look at the projects worked in the last week, it'll show me hours that have been logged against that. Now there's fee versus spend, so again the fee and the notional spend against that, and then you'll also have a total figure on each one of these jobs. You'll also have a progress chart, so if you wanted to change the progress there, you could say, if I wanted to come in here and say instead of 12% has been changed, has been completed, I can put in 30%. And you can see then that's been changed to 30% on this particular stage. If I then wanted to come in and see logged hours versus allocated hours, I can come into, if we have a look at this project here, 0115 London Apartments, again I can see the progress, I can see the hours, I can see the hours that have been logged against the hours that have been allocated. So when you're setting up the work stages, there's an area where you can project hours for the different types of users. So very quickly I can see, okay, we did quite well on strategic definition because we came in under the allocated hours. But if I click on that, I can see the user types, so an architect, a partner, and a technician had hours allocated against this particular stage. And I can come in and say, okay, the architect actually went over, even though we did quite well in terms of the hours logged against the hours allocated. The architect was 9.25 hours over on his account. The partner was never supposed to have any hours logged against the strategic definition, and then the technician came well under the hours allocated. So although it's a positive result in terms of the hours logged versus the hours allocated, it is something to look at for my own office. If I was looking at this from an Architect Pro user account, I think, okay, why was their partner's hours logged against this? Did something pop up? Do we need to put in an average of hours that have to be logged against partners for projects? Do we need to reduce the amount of hours that the technicians are being allocated, and do we need to be a bit more careful with the architect's hours? So just something to look at. Again, you don't have to go into that detail, but you can, if you just want to see what it is in terms of allocated versus logged, you can always just have a look at that. And again, there's always that total figure as well. So that's the project's progress by work stage. So if I jump back into the reports, then I'm going to jump into the invoices and aged debtors report. So if I just click on, and what I can do for that one then is I can click on a number of different options up on the top right of the page: fees and invoicing by stage, unearned fees and aged debtors. Both of these options will open up an Excel document for you. The unearned fees, there's an example of unearned fees there in terms of the Rathdrum Community Centre. There's a total fee amount of 100,000. Then there's total invoiced against 11, sorry, not 100,000, 100 hours. There's total invoiced of 11, so there's unearned fees of total there of 88. So if I go into aged debtors, then what I can see is all my invoices within all my projects. So project level, and each one of those invoices, what the invoice total has been, what's paid against that, and what's outstanding, and when those invoices are actually due. I can print those off individually, or I can just print statements off to print all of them off in one go. And that gives me a quick overview of what's going on within the overall, the total outstanding figure for my invoicing. If I jump back into the reporting section again, I can jump into the hours by user. If I jump into hours by user, I can select, say, the last 7, 14 days, full week, or full 2 weeks. And if I do that, then you can see that GN, which is in this case is Jeff Needham, has logged a good few hours in the last 2 weeks. If I go to all users and go down to Jeff, which is GN, and I can see those hours in terms of a daily basis. Now if I wanted to get a bit more detail, I can always go to a detailed Excel report, so I can put in, say, from the 1st of December to the 26th of January, and I can open that report. When I open that report, an Excel file opens up for me with this page initially, so the hours logged between these dates, and then you have your projects in terms of the non-project work all the way through to apartment development in Milltown. You have your normal hours, overtime, total hours, and then the cost of those hours. So you can see that there are hours being logged against it. Now you can go a step further by going hours by project by stage, so you can see the different hours. So you can see the first two, there's inception and, I just open that up, inception and general services, and outline proposals against non-project work, or there was Architect Pro Test project, and that had the same thing. So you can see the different hours, and again you can see normal, overtime and total in terms of the hours and the cost. And you can go a step further, hours by user, hours by project by user, and daily hours. So just a good way of seeing everything within the actual report and the logged hours. And then if I click on reports and go into non-project hours then as well, I can see the non-project hours. So Jeff has logged non-project hours of admin, outline proposals, and also sick leave. And again, you can put in date ranges for that. If I jump back into my reports, you can also get a basic project list, so that'll just give you a list of all your active projects. There's project data output, so in terms of all the information that you have on a project, in terms of site address, client details, if you have any custom data there as well, so sectors, you can open up this Excel document and it'll pull all that information out for yourselves. And there's an option to add in project leaders on your projects. You can click on the project by project leader. Again, it'll open a report for you there. So you can see, okay, there's been a number of projects unassigned. Colm Greenan is in charge of 3 projects here. Sinead Walsh is in charge of 1, and Philip Downing is in charge of 1. And you can see the client name there as well. If I jump back into my reports, you can see scheduled activity versus actual activity. So again, that's just kind of the allocated hours against that, and that'll open a report. So that's the allocated hours against your actual hours. Then the expenses opens up an expenses sheet of all the expenses created against the jobs, and then the planning dates overview as well will show you the planning dates in either the next 30 days, the next 60 days, or all dates. So you can see that there's different dates due on different items there. So in this case it's just for 87 Orla Court, so there's an end of submissions and decisions due on this particular project. And you can create a ladder then out of that, or you can go to the project. And that is an overview of all the different reports within Architect Pro. So there's a few of them there. by all means, please go in and have a look at them. And as always, if you do have any queries or questions for us, please leave them in the comment section, or give us a call or drop an email.